It's day 6 of the Israel-Hamas war, and an all-out ground offensive seems inevitable. Israel has moved its tanks to the border areas. Locals have been asked to evacuate, this even as Hamas rockets continue to fire on southern Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu has declared he won't rest till every member of the Hamas is a dead man.
Heavy mobilization on the ground. Israel's new war cabinet vows to wipe Hamas off the earth, forged an emergency government on Wednesday to direct war against Hamas. The Israel-Hamas war has already claimed 2,300 lives on both sides since the October 7th surprise attack by the terrorist group on Israeli territory. Unrelenting retaliatory airstrikes by Israel have reduced the entire city blocks of Gaza to rubble, leaving unknown numbers of bodies beneath the debris. The Israeli military and government has accused Hamas of committing grave atrocities.
The scenes are out of a zombie movie. It's a war zone, and today the body bags, many body bags, were evacuated from that kibbutz.
On Wednesday, Hamas launched rockets again into Israel's southern town of Ashkelon.
ये जो आप सामने टुकड़ा रखे हैं, ये है वो रॉकेट जो दरअसल आया हमास की ओर से. इसकी लंबाई देखिए. यही वो रॉकेट है, लगभग 1.5 फुट लंबा, जिसका अब ये खाली शेल है, लेकिन ये खाली शेल भी मैं उठा नहीं सकता.
A ground offensive looks imminent as the Israeli government has created a wartime cabinet to oversee the fight.
What you hear behind me is the roar of the Israeli tanks. It's these tanks which are now moving to the front line. Like, watch very closely. These are tanks of the Israeli army. These are armored personal carriers.
Meanwhile, the death toll in Gaza has risen to 1,200 early Thursday. According to the United Nations, the number of people displaced by Israeli airstrikes has soared to over 339,000. 2/3 of them crowding into United Nations schools. Home to some 2 million people, more than half of them living in poverty. The 40-kilometer-long Gaza Strip, wedged between Israel, Egypt and the Mediterranean Sea, is bracing for an all-out ground raid by Israeli forces, far bigger than the 2 invasions Israel mounted before. With Ashutosh Mishra in Ashkelon and Gaurav Sawant from the Gaza border, Bureau Report, India Today.
India Today's Gaurav Sawant has been at the front line in Israel. Israel is mobilizing in a massive way just ahead of the ground invasion of Gaza. Here's the latest dispatch sent by Gaurav from the Gaza border.
I am right at the front lines, and this is where you have the Israeli army artillery position. You can see those guns one after the other there. That officer and that team, they're loading that gun there. Behind me, that other gun position, and one after the other, these multiple guns are booming and targeting Hamas targets. This is right at the front lines. We are right now barely a couple of kilometers from the Gaza Strip. In fact, you can see Gaza with the naked eye from where I am standing. These guns have now been, this is a dugout gun position. It's a proper artillery gun position where 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guns, which means this is an important position. These 8 guns are now targeting Hamas strongholds. What you have here behind me are guns that are decimating. There you see. These guns that are firing, they're decimating Hamas leadership bases based on inputs that they're getting. Now, in the skies above, you can also see drones that are constantly keeping an eye. drones that are constantly keeping an eye on every movement and where the shells are landing. In case the shells are not landing exactly where they're meant to land, then a correction is given and then another round is fired. This is systematically punishing the Hamas. This is exactly what the Israeli army is doing right now. And we are at the front lines of this war. Israel's war on radical Islamist terror, Israel's war on Hamas. There has been some criticism of area weapons that are being used because a shell like that is one, like the one that you see right behind me, when this falls, it causes a lot of damage. But as far as Israel is concerned, the officers we've spoken to, they're very clear that they are destroying Hamas strongholds. Their main aim today is to target some of those tunnels where the Hamas uses those tunnels to ferry, transport not just terrorists but also rockets that have been targeting towns like Ashkelon and Sridot, where I am right now. Some of these rockets, Hamas continues even today to have the capability to target these locations. And today there has been some loss of life and property in Sridot, where I was just a short while back, and police and the army are asking people to evacuate very quickly. People are being asked to evacuate because there is an apprehension as this artillery attack, this artillery assault intensifies. As this artillery assault intensifies on Hamas strongholds, there will be some positions from where they will hit back. They will also target the Israeli towns and cities, and Sridot and Ashkelon are two places they would target. In Sridot, people are being asked to move to safer locations. Some houses have been damaged, some people have been hurt. Now police are going door to door asking people to move. Buses are going to be requisitioned, cars are being requisitioned, volunteers are being called in to ask people to move out of this area. We were also asked to move out of this area by the army and the police. They said it's not safe to be here because when there is an artillery attack like the one that's taking place, there is what is known as CB or counter bombardment that takes place. Of course, that happens more in the case of an organized army because an organized army then uses its weapon locating radars to strike back. In this case, we do not know if Hamas has those kinds of capabilities, but Hamas does have the capability to strike. That is why you also have their air defense system in place for if more terrorists want to come in from hang gliders, they will be hanged, as one of the officers told me. He said this is our Pearl Harbor moment. America was surprised in Pearl Harbor, then America destroyed the perpetrators of the Pearl Harbor attack. He said this is what has happened to us. We've woken up. We were in deep slumber. We've woken up, but now we will completely decimate the enemy, which is the Hamas, which is what these guns right behind me are doing right now.
This is a story that could well be the subject of a Hollywood film, Israel's Die Hard, or a Bollywood film, Israel Ka Jawan. Imagine this. A retired 66-year-old decorated paratrooper, Israeli general, riding his bike on a Saturday morning, gets frantic, panicked phone calls of an attack by the Hamas. The son of a friend of his has been taken hostage. He drops what he's doing, picks up his pistol, gets into his Audi, and goes, chases the Hamas. He gets his son in the end as well. To tell us about this most incredible story of valor and Israel's do-it-yourself spirit, I'm joined now, live and exclusive on India Today, by General Israel Ziv. General Ziv is a retired Israeli army general. He's been head of the Operations Directorate of the Israel Defense Forces. He's a decorated paratrooper. General Ziv, welcome. I'm the son of a military veteran myself. I had goosebumps as I was reading the story of your valor and what you did to protect your country and your people. Thank you for joining us and thank you for sharing your story with us. General Ziv, can I start right at the beginning? Take our viewers through what that Saturday morning was like. You out on your bike, how did you start getting all these calls about a about a Hamas attack, and what was your most immediate reaction? General Ziv.
Yes, thank you very much for your interest and the care. For me personally, it was a normal Saturday. I was actually, doing my bike. I was biking around my home, and we heard alerts in Israel very soon, by the telephone or what is going on, and we assumed that it's a rocket came from Gaza. We didn't figure out how big it is. It took something like 1 hour to understand that we have something which is huge or very big or something that we haven't known for the past. So I didn't wait too much. This is what we are trained all our life. And I took my pistol because this is what I have. I took my uniform that are waiting for such occasions in the cabinet, and run down to Gaza to engage the troops and to see how can I help. The sites that I've seen, I realized that I've never seen such a thing ever before, not from Gaza, and in a way, not elsewhere. Maybe I saw it, in some battlefield, other places. Me myself, I was in Lebanon. The most important thing is that there were a lot of soldiers, police officers that really sacrificed themselves in order to stop the Hamas. We had a kind of 9 very difficult hours until the reinforcement came.
General Ziv, there'll be many retired Army, Navy, Air Force officers in India who will be listening to this story, and they'll be doffing their hats to you, saying, just imagine, here is a retired Israeli general. He's at home. He sees his country has been attacked. He gets his pistol, goes out, starts fighting the Hamas. When you got to the first site of confrontation, when you saw the Hamas in their dozens, these terrorists running rampage across your motherland, what did you see? How is it, according to you, that the famed Israeli defense, the kind of valor that we typically expect and the organizational structure that we expect from the Israel Defense Forces were missing in action that Saturday morning?
Look, there is the personal story and the general story. I did not expect to see such a raid, a massive raid from the Hamas. This is something we haven't seen in the past, and it was a complete surprise, to see not just a terror attack, but really a military attack with huge numbers. They were everywhere. They were everywhere. I mean, I drove in my car and I engaged with some of our units in the field. Every, 10, 20, 50, 100 meter, 200 meter, you could see them in squads. And they were fighting. They were engaging with a lot of hatred, to come and by the way, most of it on civilians, just butchering civilians. It was quite a hard day, to be honest, even to somebody experienced like me.
So now you're in that Audi of yours. You've got a pistol. Pistol has a limited number of bullets. The Hamas has solid assault rifles. How did that go? The first confrontation, you coming in contact with the Hamas, you opened your pistol rounds of fire.
First, the engagement, some of them were in a close contact, so even the pistol was a little bit relevant. But besides of that, some of the soldiers got wounded next to me, so I used his rifle to keep on fighting. Yeah, this is what was the reality, what we had in the field, but doesn't matter. As a soldier, even if you have only a knife, you have to do what you have to do.
from the impression that I gather by reading your account and others, it seems in the initial phase, the Israel Defense Forces were caught off guard, totally surprised, and didn't seem to be able to get their act together. Why do you think their instinctive reaction, in the manner in which your body told you to react, your trained mind told you to react, why is it that we didn't see that from those who were serving on that day?
It's a big failure. Look, I think first we failed in the intelligence, in the alert. We didn't read the signs, and we didn't read the amount, the quantity, how big it is. And second thing, the whole system collapsed because you are not just relying or supposed to rely on intelligence. Intelligence is very important. But still, we have a defense system heavily rely on the fence, the wall. We have a wall over there with a lot of sensors, a lot of technology. And I think we may have trusted too much that obstacle. And we were falling asleep, and they caught us, with our pants down. There's nothing good I can say about that.
So you fought the Hamas yourself. You're arguably the senior most officer to have personally got into combat with the Hamas. And you've dealt with them, you said earlier, through your military career. When you look at the level of preparation of the Hamas, how do they compare with the Hamas of the past that you fought, with the Hezbollah who you say you took on in Lebanon? Did they seem better militarily organized, trained and prepared? Because the Indian army fights a lot of terrorists in Jammu and Kashmir and elsewhere. We don't see this kind of military precision, this level of planning, this level of organization from terror organizations. It almost seems as if at that time the IDF wasn't taking on a terrorist outfit, they were taking on an army, except as an army of terrorists.
I agree. I know the Hamas very well. I fought them many times, not only them, almost all our enemies around. I've never seen the Hamas in that level, I admit. It's a huge leap. And I think it's not just about them. I think it's very clear to see the Iranian fingerprint on their doctrine, on their planning. Even the plan itself, it's very similar to the plan that we know that Hezbollah is planning in the north. And it's kind of a copy-paste of the same plan. So, yes, it's something that in the last year or so, they have prepared. And unfortunately, they have succeeded. They succeeded to surprise us, but we are trained enough to overcome, and this is what happened. It took us 24 hours, but we turned the whole thing back, took the control, took the initiative, and now the situation in the field, of course, is fully
So let's come
controlled by
back to
us.
Saturday for a moment. You are running out of ammunition on your pistol. You pick up an assault rifle from an Israeli soldier who's injured. Then you open fire with that assault rifle. You actually go with a friend of yours to save his son, who's at that moment in a position where the Hamas is all around him. Can you describe that operation and what happened then?
Look, once we finish with that specific group that tackled us, I continue to the next village. Unfortunately, a friend of mine, another general, there are a few, by the way, retired generals there, I'm not the only one, and he had a member of his family trapped enclosed in one of the kibbutzim around, in the kibbutz Nahal Oz. So we met together, and I went to help him to get together to the kibbutz Nahal Oz, to engage with another unit, small unit, and release his family. Uh, so this is what we have done for the next kibbutz and the next kibbutz for the past few days. Yeah.
So you actually, despite at this moment being a retired general of the Israel army, went into an active encounter, got out people who were caught in the midst of firing by the Hamas and brought them out. Ever since your story hit the international headlines, I want to tell our viewers that General Israel Ziv has become a bit of a cult hero in Israel and globally for his valor, for his do-it-yourself spirit. When the system is down, the individual stands up and fights back. From then, I am told that you've had multiple interactions with senior officials in Tel Aviv, in the Israel government. What have you been telling them? What did you tell them? Why did Israel fail? What does Israel now need to do to ensure, you said you were caught with your pants down, to ensure that such a thing never happens again?
First of all, let me correct you. I'm nothing but a hero. I'm not a hero. This is, you know, when you are a soldier, you are a soldier. It doesn't matter what rank or what is your age. And it's your character to protect others, and this is what all of us and myself as well are doing. So, and I think that look, that surprise was a big surprise for the government as well, and it took the government a few days, you know, to come for reality, to understand how big the problem is. It took them too long. Yeah, I mean, 5 days to create the emergency government. It's much too long. But people are people, and now things are in place. I think we took the initiative. We are now in a massive offense on Gaza. We gave our warning to the Hezbollah not to mess just now at this critical moment when we are attacking the Hamas. We still recover our casualties, but we have a big numbers. The numbers that have been published until now, it's not the whole numbers. We're still identifying bodies. We still see the horrified scenes. You know, I was there, but when I went to the next day to see that, terrible to see.
I want
that.
you to
Very
look
hard.
ahead, General Israel Ziv, and talk about your sense of the operation in the Gaza Strip. Now, you've got at least 150 Israelis hostages. You've got a situation where the IDF has found it difficult to maintain occupation of the Gaza Strip, which is why in the mid-2000s you came back. You left the Hamas to run the Gaza Strip. A street battle in a densely populated urban enclave is a military man's nightmare. How do you see that operation go? You're saying you want to raise the Hamas to the ground. How do you see this military operation proceed from here?
Look, first of all, the hostages thing, of course, it's a big issue. And we have a special task force to deal with that. We take it very seriously. We care about each one of the Israelis over there. But we are not going to negotiate with the Hamas. And we are going to fight this war like there is nothing else to stop us. If they want to return our hostages, it might help them. But we are not going to spare all the Hamas and everybody that is connecting and helping the Hamas and their infrastructure. So it will be wise for their side to do humanitarian act. It might help them. I'm not sure it will, but it might help them. We are going to full attack to erase every infrastructure, everything that belongs to the Hamas cannot stand there. We have tried for many years, you know, to have Hamas. It didn't work. Yeah, we closed one eye, two eyes, you know, because it's a terror government, but no more. They have crossed terrible line that we are not going to suffocate, and they're going to pay for it. and we will not see and suffer any Hamas anymore in our next to our border.
General Ziv, you said that you're not a hero. In every definition of how military heroes are defined, I'd say you're more than just a hero. You're an inspiration to your country, you're an inspiration to everyone who's listening to the story at this moment, and to so many military veterans in India who'd be listening to your story. They'll all say, as would I, hats off. Well done, sir. What an incredible
Thank you.
fight
Best
back.
regards for the Indian people.
Thank you so
We
much,
love them.
General Israel Ziv,
you.
Israel's diehard, for joining us on India Today, for narrating your story and for your epic valor and bravery. Thank you, sir. General Israel, what a guy. Only a paratrooper would want to do something like this. Incredible story there. One of the defining images of the Hamas's attack on the 7th of October was that of terrorists using paragliders. Now, usually paragliders are seen as being completely harmless. They're used for recreation, but they were used as a key part of one of the world's worst terror attacks. India Today is Mausmi Singh caught up with some paragliding experts, military veterans, to try and see how the harmless paraglider was converted into a weapon of destruction.
Israel faced one of the deadliest terror attacks in its history. As hell rained from water, land and air, one of the most chilling images were of terror being unleashed from the skies. Powered gliders, Hamas militants raining in fire and fury from the skies at a music festival. Now, India Today in this special report in the next few minutes will take you through how a sporting equipment, a sporting adventure sport, in fact, was used to unleash terror and make one of the most deadliest terror attacks possible. These are what powered paragliders are. You can see that this equipment is right here.
There is a difference in between being a guerrilla and using a poor man's weapon as a paramotor, whereas compared to the Israeli army and the Air Force, even if they had those special forces people who are trained paracommandos, special forces, but they needed an aircraft to jump in. They needed a helicopter to jump in. Here, they did not need anything, and they did not even need to be, trained paratroopers. They were just coming as a passenger sitting in this paramotor, and which could not have been, picked up by the radars. Came in at a very low height of 1,000 feet, and came to pinpointed accuracy to the point where they wanted to land and make their attack.
Let's take a ride and we'll try and make you understand that those minutes in the air, how the maneuvering was done, what was the on-air time, how much is the loiter time. We'll try and understand all those things. We are using multiple cameras. We are using a 360, we are using a GoPro and multiple cameras to give you a 360-degree view of this takeoff and a ride. And after we come back, then we'll try and explain to you how this entire sequence of events actually unfolded. Importantly, you can see that there's a motor and that's been switched on. Behind the motor is the propeller. And this is being handled by the pilot who is behind. While the one who's seated in front, the hands are free. You have a 270-degree view from the left to the right. So now we take off. Let me tell you that when we take a run, it's just about 6-8 feet you have to run, and then you are already airbound. Even the landing doesn't need much space. But you can imagine that when these Hamas militants were trained, then this is a one-way ticket. They were training for a one-way ticket. You didn't have to really bother whether they had a proper landing or not. Right behind me, you can see that the power glider is actually landing. If the motor is off, it doesn't make any sound at all. And here you can see that how he harnesses the entire direction of the glider. So very smooth landing there.
The sound factor, in case I want to be more discreet, I can switch off the motor and still land like this, depending on the proficiency level of the pilot.
Okay.
So it becomes more covert kind of operation wherein there is no sound at all.
Clearly, the power glider was not only trying to demolish or destroy and harm the Israeli population, but it's more of a psychological warfare of sorts that no matter how trained and how new age your technology and resources are, the Hamas militants have just smashed the entire Israeli formidable security system into smithereens. With video journalists Satya Rotre, Himanshu and Sanjay, this is Mosmi Singh, and that's all in this special report from Manesar for India Today.
I want to go across now live to our reporters on the ground. We've got 3 reporters joining us from 3 different locations at this moment. Gaurav Sawant joins us from Sderot in Israel. We've got Ashraf Wani joining us from the Israel-Lebanese border on the Lebanon side. Ashutosh Mishra has been reporting from Ashkelon. I want to go across to Gaurav Sawant first. We played out his dispatch where he was with an artillery gun position. He was looking at these tanks, it seems, Gaurav. And you've covered many wars starting with Kargil. It seems that a ground invasion of Gaza is inevitable. When do you see it start? And from what you've seen so far, how do you see it progress?
Rahul, before a ground assault, it seems that the enemy positions are being softened with this artillery attack and the air attack. This is classic military tactics being adopted by Israel at this stage. Behind me, you will see long convoys of military movement, trucks carrying ammunition, trucks carrying fuel. There are soldiers going in their own vehicles, soldiers going in military convoys, all of them heading to the border. We are at one of those border points right now, where at the forward locations right now, beyond this is only military movement that's permitted. So Rahul, through the day today, air attacks took place, and those ground penetration bombs were used to decimate Hamas tunnels. Now that is the Brahmastra that Hamas has, those maze of underground tunnels that they use not just to run from one place to the other, but also ship ammunition, ship fighters from one place to the other, move rockets from one place to the other. That is being destroyed by Israel, at least the ones that are very close to the border. Once artillery pulverizes the position, then the infantry, the armor assault starts, and a large number of Merkava tanks have already been positioned there. The infantry combat vehicles, the armored fighting vehicles, they're already positioned. And just a short while back, we saw a huge convoy of ground troops also moving forward in multiple military vehicles, singing patriotic, Israeli songs in Hebrew. So that just goes on to show that they're all geared up. They're pulverizing the target. The moment they think that their ground forces will not come under intense attack from the Hamas terrorists who may still be there, or their leadership, they will then move in. So it's a very systematic operation. While this is standard army drill, we are told that there are a couple of aces that Israel has up its sleeve to ensure that it's not caught off guard, the manner in which it did, because every Israeli you speak to, Rahul, and you've spoken to a large number of people here, they say they're so wounded, their psyche is hurt by the barbarity of that attack, including the brutal murder of toddlers and children in cribs and prams by the Hamas terrorists.
Okay.
So they want to ensure that Hamas never remains a threat for the Israeli forces ever again. That's where these operations are being mounted, Rahul.
Let's go across to Ashraf Wani. He is in Lebanon. He was with the Hezbollah. And the big question there, of course, Ashraf, whether you see the Hezbollah get involved in this attack as well. Will it extend to northern Israel, or do you think that this battle is likely going to be focused around the Gaza Strip and will not move towards Syria, will not move towards the Hezbollah?
Rahul, basically, the Israelis trying to avoid clashes with Hezbollah on the north border of Israel, which is the South Lebanon, here where I am currently standing. But from last 5 days, Hezbollah is backing this battle in the Gaza and as well as in the Israel. In fact, the Israel has on day one said that they know that each and every planning is being done in the Lebanon against Israel, and all the weapons and in fact the men are coming from the Lebanon. And in fact we had reports yesterday evening some of the more fighters of the Palestinian groups have penetrated into northern Israel by paragliders. That was not confirmed yet by the Israel, but the sources here in the Lebanon said that they have already penetrated and will carry another series of attacks on the Israeli army. But today was a big development when the Israel bombed the 2 airports in Syria, where from one of which the foreign minister of Iran was expected to travel, and that is why that bombing resulted the compulsion of that Iranian foreign minister to change his route and land back in Beirut. So he is still here in the Beirut, and Lebanon is already an ally of the Iran. And this is actually the battle between America and Iran, and now being played by the Israel and the Hamas in Gaza. But it is expected that in coming days, when Hezbollah is going to attack, the army position is in Israel, and Israel will not sit calm. They are responding with the artillery fire, with the missiles from their side, and it clearly indicates that today's development will expand this war beyond Gaza and beyond Israel.
Thanks, Ashraf. Ashutosh, I saw you were speaking to some Israeli soldiers. Tomorrow, of course, is the first Friday after this barbaric Hamas attack. How significant is that going to be, and try and encapsulate for our viewers all that you saw on the ground in southern Israel today?
Well, Rahul, it has been a terrible night. Last night, there were multiple sirens every time you go to sleep, and then all of a sudden you have to flee to the bunker. But this morning there have not been siren, neither any rocket attacks as far as Escalon is concerned. The situation remains so terrible that even the coastal line, all the mariners have been stopped. Their entry have been restricted. Mariners cannot go inside. In fact, there is a heavy watch being carried out by the Israeli forces. I was, in fact, detained for a while as they realized there is someone near the coastal line, which is totally unusual in last 3 to 4 days. So they will inquire. But as far as the Friday prayer is concerned, this will be the first ever since the attack broke out by the terror organization in Israel's southern part. And subsequently, there are Al-Quds group from the West Bank is also willing to join the war. There have been also issued certain videos on social media platforms like Telegram. So that makes also, because having the mixed population of the Jews and the Arabs together, when they come out in a number, we'll have to see whether there will be open access for all the Arab Muslims to the inside the mosque, because usually what happens, with this kind of situation, only they allow people above the age of 45 and 50 to offer their prayer. In that case, whether they're going to be heavy confrontation. Last night, what we know, there have been protests within the community in certain pockets of Jerusalem. So tomorrow it makes a significant day, while we are seeing the Israel being locked from north and south, while West Bank is eagerly waiting. And as Ashraf mentioned, there is subsequent attack from a Syrian threat. So it looks like an attempt to corner the Israel from all square, and in that case, tomorrow gonna be very significant day. Rahul.
Okay, we'll keep coming back to our reporters. They've been doing an absolutely phenomenal job. I can't tell you, Gaurav, Ashraf and Ashutosh, how proud the entire India Today newsroom is of the effort that you're making. Please stay safe as we try and capture the story for our viewers and to amplify the work that Gaurav, Ashutosh and Ashraf are doing. Please take care and stay safe. Joining us now live from Tel Aviv is Yossi Zilberman, Israeli diplomat, spokesperson at the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Mr. Zilberman, welcome to India Today. We're receiving reports about an attack on some Syrian air bases started from Israel. Do you want to give us some information about them? What is it that happened? I'm told that the Iranian foreign minister was apparently planning a trip to Syria and now he's had to return to Beirut.
Good evening. I think that we need, first of all, to understand and to establish the situation. Israel is right now at war. We have different fronts, but the main focus of our front right now is to destroy the infrastructure of the terrorist regime of Hamas in Gaza Strip. I think that we all witnessed the terrible and horrendous pictures and photos from this event on Saturday, and what we have been seeing is the destruction and the massacre of Hamas. There are different wings of Iran around us, unfortunately, and yes, we need to say out loud that there are organizations that are seeking to destroy Israel, or they want to, just like Hezbollah, for instance, the Islamic Jihad, Hamas, all led or getting inspired by Iran's terror regime from Tehran, and we will not give them the benefit of enjoying the situation, whether it is up in the north or in the Gaza Strip after this event on Saturday, and Israel will defend itself and its citizens.
Okay, so you want to tell us about how day 6 of this ground offensive has gone? We're seeing tanks being mobilized near the southern Israeli border. Is Israel planning to now move into Gaza?
I will not get into the military plans of the state in order as well not to give some intel regarding what we are about to do, but I can promise you one thing, that we will take every measure in order to defend the citizens of Israel. After what happened on Saturday, we saw that it was not an army against an army. We saw terrorists are massacring civilians, and we are absolutely aiming in order to erase the threat to future references. And we will do whatever it takes, whether it is by air, land, sea, or any way, in order to erase this threat against our citizens and civilians. And yes, if it means as well moving forward in a large-scale military operation, I think that we will do that. I think that Hamas is the new ISIS, and there is only one way to confront this threat, and it is to annihilate Hamas.
Now, one of the questions being asked is about the civilian casualties. The fact that you're going after Hamas terrorists has the support of people globally, but we're also seeing lots of young kids, women, old people who are being impacted, many killed as a result of the Israeli counteroffensive.
I think that we are at war, and the side that started the war is also holding captive not only hostages of Israeli origin, but also is holding hostages the people of Gaza. And this is something that we need to understand. Hamas is cancer. Just like Hezbollah in Lebanon, so is Hamas in Gaza. They are spreading and they are preventing from Gaza. Gaza could have been a flourishing place. There was so much invested in Gaza since Israel, I remind you, in 2005, evacuated all its forces. All the villages, the Israeli villages in the Gaza Strip were evacuated, and there are no Israeli citizens, there are no Israeli soldiers in the Gaza Strip. And ever since, the Hamas was shooting rockets at Israeli territory, trying to aim specifically at civilians, and we saw the of this terrorist act on Saturday, and this is why every act that Hamas is creating is their own war crime. They are actually creating two war crimes. They are shooting missiles from civilian population in Gaza to civilian population in Israel. So every death that is happening in Gaza is on their head and their responsibility.
How concerned are you at this moment about how Hezbollah may react, and whether you see this conflict with the Hamas escalate to a two-front conflict with the Hamas on the one side and Hezbollah in the West Bank?
We have warned already, and not just us. I think that our allies around the world have warned Hezbollah and other countries and other organizations not to join, God forbid, this event. But if they do decide to join, Israel is a strong country, and Israel will defend its citizens by all means. And we have the means to do that and to wreak havoc. And we already showed that against Hezbollah in prior events. And we will do that again if Hezbollah will make the dire mistake and will decide to join and to inflict pain on Israel. We will inflict twice and 3 times and 4 times the same pain on Hezbollah and that area. And I know that the Lebanese people as well are conveying messages to Hezbollah not to enter this event because it will affect the region. And we have, Israel have suffered tremendously. I want to speak for a second about what we have suffered on Saturday. We are talking about 1,200 people that were murdered. Most of them are civilians that were butchered. It was a massacre. Almost every Israeli, we are a small country, we are not India. We are only in total 10 million. So almost every and each of us knows someone who got hurt in this event. So we are a wounded animal, and we are ready to defend ourselves as a wounded animal, and we will do whatever it takes.
Okay, what do you see as being the end game in Gaza? Once you've been able to take down the infrastructure of the Hamas, do you see Israel governing the Gaza Strip, or do you think that is unmanageable because it's been tried in the past and it didn't work out? What is the future that you envision for Gaza?
We have no will to govern Gaza. We wish that the people of Gaza will govern themselves. We wish them to have a flourished place to live in. During the last few years, so much money was poured into Gaza, and instead of creating a land of prosperity, we are seeing a land of terror. And we wish the Gazan people to have a better life without the Hamas. And I'm positive that after this cycle, we will destroy the infrastructure of Hamas to hurt Israel once again. This is our end game. I think that Hamas took not one step too much. It took 100 or perhaps 1,200 steps too much. And we are going to end this in order not to face this situation ever again.
Okay, we'll leave it over there. Thank you very much, spokesperson of the Israeli Foreign Ministry, for joining us on this broadcast. Deeply appreciate your time. Yossi Zilberman joining us there from Tel Aviv. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
This is where we wrap up the Newstrack tonight. For your time and your trust, thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you 8 p.m. tomorrow evening. Till then, from all of us here, goodbye, good night.